Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. In the digital age, there's more data than ever before. It's collected by companies and government departments in every interaction and every transaction. But how many companies are actually using that data to its full potential? Today, we're doing something a little bit different. Fear and Greed is supported by Do Data Better, a campaign to demonstrate the difference an actuary can make to the way your business operates. I'm joined by three leading actuaries who work in major Australian data science businesses. Adam Driussi is the co-founder and CEO of Quantium. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Jonathan Cohen, principal at Taylor Fry. Good morning.
Hi, Sean.
And Deloitte partner Rick Shaw. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no worries.
Righto, let's jump into it. Big data, even the word data, can be overwhelming to many people, to businesses that don't really understand it. In a sentence or two, got to dumb it right down, can each of you tell me what we're talking about in this podcast today? What is it that data can do for business? I'm going to start with you, Adam. You got the first intro. You get the first question.
Sure. I mean, I guess in a nutshell, if you think back to like the early days of a shopkeeper running a retail store, you'd walk into a local shop and the person would know your name and they'd know what you're into and they'd know the sorts of things you want to buy. And data is the modern way of doing that, where large companies can deal with lots of customers but understand them in a detailed way. So they can actually give customers a personalised experience by understanding their preferences and who they are as individuals. And so when we talk about big data, I really think we're talking about an age where there's lots and lots of data being collected now compared to in the past. So with all of that data comes great opportunities to do that better for customers.
Okay, you had first mover advantage there, Adam. Jonathan, have you got something to add to that?
I'd say Adam did a pretty good description there. I'd say the one comment I'd add is that it certainly extends beyond sort of retail and customer-facing businesses through to areas like government and health, record lots of data and lots of opportunity there also.
And Rick?
Like what my friend said, I would just challenge the framing of the question a little bit, in the sense that I think it's what we want to do, and it's kind of the actuarial role, is ensure that we have these wonderful, great tools, and as Adam says, we can personalise the way we interact with people. I would just frame it as not see business as something separate from society. How can we use these great tools for the betterment of society generally?
Okay. What I want to do is ask each of you to now give me an example. Maybe you've worked on the strategy, maybe you've implemented it, maybe you've just heard about it, where data strategy or data has really helped a business or disrupted a market or something like that. I'm kind of looking for real life examples so I can, as a non-expert in this area, can identify with what you're talking about.
I'll start off. We're doing extensive work with a number of financial services organisations which are automating decisions that impact people, say around the mortgage approval process or the premium rating within an insurer. And our approach to this work is we set the framework for the technical analysis and the governance reporting and all that. What we're tending to do more and more is to ensure that the algorithmic outputs are consistent with corporate and social objectives. So what we're doing is making the black box of algorithms a glass box. And so we develop governance systems with this human ownership of the algorithmic output. Because the framing here is that the algorithm is only ever an input into a decision-making process. A human always makes a decision. And we're doing a lot of work in that area of bringing transparency to the algorithmic processes.
Okay. Adam, what about, you work with a lot of very large Australian corporates. Do you have an example where data has really made a difference in one way or another?
So if you think about something like a supermarket, like a Woolworths or any supermarket, frankly, when you walk down a supermarket aisle, there are all sorts of decisions that humans have had to make over the years around what things they put in the aisle. As an example, how much of a store do you dedicate to soft drink? And then within that soft drink, where do you place the soft drink? And do you put Coke Zero next to Diet Coke next to Diet Pepsi, or do you put all of Coke next to each other, all of Pepsi next to each other, and so on? So you've got decisions around how much of a store you allocate to certain products. You've got decisions around how you price those products. So do you make a product 50% off? Do you make it 2 for 1? What sort of promotions do you have? And they're massive decisions for retailers and suppliers. So just a simple thing like those promotions, I think retailer and suppliers collectively invest about $6 billion a year just in a Woolworths in promotions. So there's really big decisions that humans make where, if you think about it, you've got a lot of data understanding how customers are actually interacting in individual stores and how they're buying those products, where you can use that data to better tailor the experience for customers to make sure you've got the right products on the shelf so that when they walk into a store, there's not their favourite item missing and so on. So you need forecasting algorithms to actually predict how much of every item you're going to sell every day, depending on what price you've set, so that you can deliver the right amount of stock to stores to get on the shelf and so on. And all of those things can be done better with data and analytics. And I would say they're all of those things I just mentioned are problems that we work on with retailers around the world to help transform the way that they make sure they're getting the right products on shelves to customers when they need it.
Jonathan, examples where data has made a difference.
During COVID, we did work with the Sydney Local Health District and New South Wales Health, who built the vaccination hub at Olympic Park, which administered something like 500,000 vaccines over a 3-month period at a peak operating rate of about 10,000 vaccines a day. So the challenge there was to set up some sort of data analytics framework so they can know what's going on. And we also developed what's called sort of a digital twin simulation. So we had a simulation model of the centre itself so that the operational team could look at questions like, what happens if we change the number of pharmacists or the number of nurses or change the queue structure, and how can we improve throughput and reduce the length of queues and make the whole process more resilient. So that was really cool because it was very concrete. You can kind of see the changes. You're talking to operational people and having to do things very quickly. So it also sort of highlighted how within a matter of weeks, you can establish an analytics framework that delivers sort of actual value to an issue because you've got sort of a razor focus on the thing you need to do in a very limited time frame to do it in. I've got another example, somewhat more abstract, but we do a lot of work in the social services sector, so government welfare systems. And sort of the first global example of that was 10 or 15 years ago. We worked with the New Zealand government to restructure the way in which they administer social welfare. So historically, it was based on sort of annual appropriations. And the question was, well, can we change that to say, well, let's work out who has the greatest need over their lifetime and where we can put the money to improve outcomes the most over a long period. So running things much more, in a sense, how an insurer would run their business. And so we've worked with the New Zealand government for the last 10 or 15 years on building lots of statistical models that fit within an actuarial framework that allow them to project out 30, 40 years of welfare payments and welfare structures and work out how to redistribute and structure those benefits. And that sort of concept and work has spread from there, and it's been implemented more broadly. So Australia is going down a similar path. Issues such as social welfare, but also broader social issues. For example, how to improve outcomes and lives of vulnerable children who go through sort of foster care.
Okay, we'll be back with more in a minute. My guests this morning are Quantium's Adam Driussi, Jonathan Cohen from Taylor Fry, and Deloitte's Rick Shaw. I'm now going to ask each of you, this is our final question, each of you, what you think is next in data and analytics. Where will we be in 5 years or 10 years as a society because of how data and analytics have been used in society? Perhaps not the easiest question to answer in a sentence, I do get that. But I'm going to go to you first, Jonathan.
I think there's obviously a lot of buzz around what's called generative AI, of which ChatGPT is an example. I think we'll see a lot of growth in systems that help people in the creative process. These have existed for quite a while, but haven't been that known about. That'll expand. I think there'll be a lot of technical advances, but I think one trend that we'll see, particularly over the next 3 to 5 years, is an increase in regulation and guidance on the usage of AI. So there's a number of international developments around setting standards and guidance around the use of AI. There's local developments on several legislative and regulatory fronts to start applying standards there. So I think that'll be an increase in trend, particularly as consumers become more aware of the way in which data and algorithms are affecting decisions that impact their life.
Adam?
Yeah, I agree with Jonathan there in terms of the increase in consumer expectations and governance around the space. I think that's only going to increase over the next, say, 5 years. I think if I add to what Jonathan said, because I agree broadly with what he was saying there, I also just think you're going to see a more mainstream adoption of analytics and data. So, like I said, I think today you're talking about some of the bigger players who are really using analytics at scale to make decisions. So it's a little bit of a case of the haves and the have-nots today, I think. And I think over the next 5 years, you're going to see increasing, almost all companies starting to make much more decisions using data and analytics. Now, obviously, the technology, the range of data that's being captured and the technologies that were being used are only going to explode. They're going to continue to explode. We could talk for ages in terms of whether it's computer vision, whether it's a smart trolley in a supermarket or whatever it might be in different industries. I think we're going to continue to see explosions in amount of data, the technology to use that data. But I'm really interested to see the broader adoption of data and analytics across companies.
Rick?
I think that if we as a society play our cards right, the data and computable systems will empower the consumer and the individual, and we could start sharing wealth in a lot more equitable ways. I think that these are great tools that can be used for the benefit of society. And I think we've got a bit of imbalance in society at the moment around the beneficiaries being the large institutions and the government's not acting appropriately and misusing tools. And I think as a society, the power of these tools, they enable individuals to collectivise and not rely on the state so much. And I'm quite excited about that sort of rising up of sort of moral agents. The facilitation by the web and the internet of collective structures to create and demand ownership of your own data, for example, in a way that is not abusive, as I think it has been in the past.
Look, I said that was my last question, but I do have one more. What are your last thoughts about how actuaries and data scientists play a role in what we're talking about going forward? Rick, let's start with you.
I think that as I talk about the two cultures problem that we have these great people who building algorithms which appear to be black boxes to the boards, the executives, and the ethicists who are often academic or lawyers or something. And I think the role of the professional issues, the engineers and the actuaries, is to have a foot in both the technical camp and the sort of the governance and ethics camp. And for society to rely on professions such as ours to make sure that the algorithmic output are consistent with corporate and social objectives. And that's the sort of the business offering that we've kind of developed. And I think it's that professional responsibility is our role as actuaries, subject to harsh professional standards, to stand somewhat separate from the outcomes of our work, is how I think society should handle this issue. It's too complex for governments and regulations,
Jonathan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say actuaries have an inherent focus on becoming trusted business advisors. And so sort of well placed to help navigate both the huge potential benefits of AI, but also identify and manage the risks associated with that.
And Adam, the last word.
I'm in a bit of a funny situation in that I'm an actuary by background, but I run what I think of as a data science company. And so we think about this as a data science problem that, in my opinion, actuaries just make very good data scientists. So when we go about hiring data scientists every year, to give you an idea, we just hired about 150 graduates who start in the next few weeks. A large proportion of those are actuaries. Probably about a third of them are actuarial graduates. And that's because we think they bring the right combination of technical skill set, strategic mindset, financial acumen, and so on. And so there's something about the actuarial course that attracts the right people who've got that combination of skills and also the education that they get. So I actually think it's a data science challenge where actuaries have a role to play. Now, whether in the future the Actuaries Institute can play a broader role to think about how do you, from a governance point of view, introduce more protections and so on, it remains to be seen. But today, that's how I see actuaries fitting into the piece.
Whatever, it's a very exciting future for actuaries, I suspect. Adam Driussi, co-founder and CEO of Quantium, thank you for your time today.
No problems. Thanks, Sean.
Jonathan Cohen, principal at Taylor Fry, thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much, Sean.
And Deloitte partner, Rick Shaw, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks a lot.
Adam, Jonathan and Rick joined me today as part of the Do Data Better campaign, a supporter of this podcast. For more information, head to Do Data Better, or one word, dodatabetter.com.au. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.